I think other people seem to sparkle when they're in love, and I like to see that. But for me, it's like I sparkle when I'm not in love, which is kind of okay.
Decision to initiate a lawsuit against The View came after a series of critical comments made by the show's hosts, particularly Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sunny Hostin. The controversy began when the hosts attacked Karoline during a segment of the show, undermining her career achievements and reducing her professional success to superficial factors. Joy Behar specifically targeted Karoline's position as press secretary, suggesting that her job was solely secured because of her appearance, implying that hired her because he thought she was a 10. This comment seemed to dismiss Karoline's abilities and qualifications, instead reducing her to a mere object of desire in the eyes of a powerful man. Rather than letting the disparaging remarks slide, Karoline took an assertive stand. Instead of passively accepting the insult, she launched a strong public response that not only addressed Behar's comments, but also aimed to expose what she saw as the hypocrisy of The View and its hosts. Karoline's response highlighted what she saw as a double standard in the media, especially in terms of how women are expected to behave and be perceived in the public eye. She argued that The View and its hosts, who publicly advocate for women's empowerment and support for female voices, only seem to support women who align with their political beliefs and views. Her lawsuit was a bold move that caught the attention of viewers and media outlets alike, escalating the situation far beyond a typical on-air spat. The legal action wasn't just a response to the comments, but a way for Karoline to reclaim control over her narrative and stand up against the attacks she perceived as an attempt to diminish her career and achievements. This legal bombshell not only set off a storm of controversy, but also exposed deeper tensions surrounding the media's treatment of conservative women, contributing to a much larger public debate. Joy Behar's remark about Karoline Leavitt's job as press secretary being the result of her physical appearance, specifically claiming that hired her because he thought she was a 10, was a deeply controversial comment that drew widespread criticism. Behar's comment seemed to completely dismiss Karoline's intelligence, experience, and qualifications, focusing solely on her looks. In the context of a professional setting, this type of statement is especially problematic because it reduces a woman's worth and career success to her physical attractiveness, perpetuating outdated and sexist stereotypes. By suggesting that Karoline's success was based solely on her appearance, Behar implied that women in power, particularly in conservative circles, could not have achieved their positions through merit, intelligence, or hard work. This comment also reinforced harmful stereotypes about conservative women in the media, who are often portrayed as less competent or capable than their liberal counterparts. Behar's statement, coming from a seasoned television personality, seemed to echo the narrative that conservative women are token figures, selected for their looks rather than their professional skills. It also spoke to a deeper issue of undermining conservative voices in media, especially women who do not align with the mainstream liberal agenda.
Those are two of the aspects of the woke mind bias that I think are very dangerous. Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things. Even the questioning is bad.
By making this comment, Behar not only insulted Karoline's career, but also marginalized the experience of women who are already in positions of power and influence in conservative spaces. Additionally, Behar's remark highlighted a double standard in the treatment of women, especially those in the public eye. While the media often praises women who fit into a narrow definition of beauty or who hold certain political views, those who do not adhere to these expectations, especially women with conservative values, face harsh and demeaning judgments. Karoline Leavitt's response, which would eventually escalate into a legal battle, was an attempt to confront this form of discrimination and defend her professional integrity. The comment by Behar, in many ways, became a symbol of the broader issues surrounding how women are treated in the media and how conservative women, in particular, are often demeaned and dismissed based on unfounded assumptions about their success. Whoopi Goldberg's criticism of Karoline Leavitt centered around Karoline's stance on wokeness, with Whoopi suggesting that Karoline wouldn't have had her job as press secretary without it. In her argument, Whoopi tied Karoline's professional success to the history of struggles for women and minorities, implying that without the advances made by the feminist and civil rights movements, Karoline's position in a powerful political role would not be possible. According to Whoopi, the concept of wokeness, which has become a contentious and polarizing term, was necessary for opening doors for marginalized groups, particularly women and people of color, in spaces traditionally dominated by white men. men. Whoopi's remarks positioned Karoline's success as a product of the very societal changes she seemed to reject. Karoline, a young conservative woman, had expressed opposition to the concept of wokeness, which often involves advocating for inclusivity, diversity, and social justice. By rejecting this ideology, Karoline seemingly positioned herself against a critical aspect of the struggle for equality, which Whoopi argued was key to her ability to even be in the room as a woman in a prominent political role. Whoopi's argument was that wokeness helped pave the way for women like Karoline to attain positions of power, and without those societal shifts, Karoline's success might have been unattainable. This commentary from Whoopi Goldberg also highlighted the generational and ideological divide between the two women. While Whoopi and many of her peers view wokeness as a necessary and positive force for change, Karoline's rejection of it signaled her opposition to what she saw as an overemphasis on identity politics, which she believes might be divisive. In Whoopi's eyes, Karoline's rhetoric threatened to undermine the progress that had been made by previous generations of women and minority activists who fought for equal representation. Karoline's response to Whoopi's comments, instead of backing down, only intensified the controversy, as she viewed Whoopi's statements as patronizing and an attempt to diminish her abilities and success. This clash between the two women thus became a focal point in a larger cultural debate about the role of wokeness in contemporary politics and society, as well as the treatment of conservative women in public discourse. Sunny Hostin added a racial angle to the conversation when she criticized Karoline Leavitt, framing the discussion around privilege and societal inequities.
You were suspended for. Do you regret that?
I'm in a quandary at how to answer that because people are waiting for me to say something. I said what I had to say. They suspended me. I respected what they said. I respected everybody's opinion.
Hostin, known for her outspoken views on race, suggested that Karoline's position as press secretary was likely tied to the privilege that she, as a white conservative woman, may not fully recognize. Hostin's argument centered around the concept of racial and social privilege, implying that Karoline's rise to power was facilitated by a system that still benefits white individuals, particularly in high-profile positions. She argued that Karoline's success in the context of wokeness and the broader social movements advocating for equality might have been enabled by the very societal changes that address historical racial and gender inequalities. By introducing the racial angle, Hostin was attempting to bring attention to the broader systemic issues at play, where historically marginalized groups, including people of color, fought to gain access to spaces of power and influence that were once predominantly occupied by white men. In her view, Karoline, who identified as a conservative and seemed to reject wokeness, may have failed to acknowledge the privileges afforded to her due to her race and political ideology, especially in a time when societal shifts were pushing for more inclusivity and representation. However, Karoline Leavitt strongly pushed back against these accusations, refusing to accept the premise that her success could be solely attributed to privilege or the social movements of the time. She took issue with Hostin's insinuation that her achievements were somehow less legitimate or valid due to her race or political beliefs. Karoline rejected the idea that being a conservative woman made her success any less deserving, challenging Hostin's assumptions and pointing out that success should be viewed through the lens of merit and individual ability rather than the color of one's skin or political alignment. Karoline's response aimed to shut down the notion of privilege as a catch-all explanation for her career, instead emphasizing that her accomplishments were earned through hard work, determination, and the personal choices she made, rather than external factors like race or political ideology. In doing so, Karoline not only defended her professional integrity, but also took a firm stance against what she viewed as an attempt to delegitimize her position through racial and ideological rhetoric. This clash between the two women highlighted the complex intersection of race, privilege, and political beliefs, and how these issues play out in media and public discourse. Karoline's refusal to back down from the attacks ultimately sparked a larger conversation about the role of identity politics in shaping people's careers and public perceptions, especially for women in politics. Karoline Leavitt's response to the hosts of The View quickly went viral, spreading rapidly across social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Her decision to stand up against the criticisms from Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sunny Hostin, particularly after the attacks on her career and political beliefs, struck a chord with many viewers, especially those who felt that conservative voices, particularly women, were often unfairly criticized in mainstream media.
Because that loss, as bad as the loss was for me, for him, it was beyond.
You said he never really got over your
No,
mom's death.
no, and I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. We had such a good time.
Karoline's viral video, which she posted as a direct rebuttal to The View hosts, showcased her unflinching confidence and ability to defend her position while calling out the hypocrisy she perceived in the media's treatment of women like herself. The video garnered widespread attention, partly due to Karoline's strong and articulate response to the personal attacks on her intelligence and career. By addressing the dismissive comments about her looks, career trajectory, and stance on wokeness, she effectively reframed the conversation and challenged the very narratives that had been used to undermine her. As her video gained traction, it sparked intense debate across social media, with many users sharing it, discussing its implications, and praising Karoline for her boldness in confronting the well-known hosts of The View. The viral nature of Karoline's response also highlighted the power of social media in amplifying voices that often feel marginalized or underrepresented in traditional media. Platforms like Twitter and Instagram allowed people to rally behind her message, expressing support for her and amplifying her criticism of The View. The video also resonated with many individuals who believed that women, especially conservative ones, were often subjected to double standards when it came to public perception and media treatment. On YouTube, the video was further disseminated through reactions and commentary, fueling even more conversations around the issue. What began as a simple pushback to a talk show's offhand comments quickly transformed into a full-blown media event, drawing the attention of both Karoline's supporters and detractors. The way her response went viral demonstrated the potent role that social media plays in challenging established media narratives, particularly when those narratives are seen as biased or exclusionary. It also revealed how a single, well-articulated rebuttal can capture the public's attention, turning an individual's reaction into a broader cultural conversation. Karoline's viral moment, in essence, showcased the ability of social media to shift the balance of power in public discourse, especially when traditional media figures are called out for their perceived biases. In her viral video, Karoline Leavitt sharply criticized The View for what she saw as a glaring hypocrisy in their treatment of women. Her accusations centered around the show's claim to champion women's empowerment while simultaneously attacking and undermining women who do not align with their political or ideological views. Karoline's response focused on the fact that The View, which presents itself as a progressive platform advocating for the rights and success of women, was quick to belittle and dismiss her achievements simply because she was a conservative. This contradiction was particularly evident in how the hosts, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sunny Hostin, reduced her career to mere physical appearance, dismissing her intelligence and professional qualifications. Karoline argued that the hosts, particularly Joy Behar, had claimed to support women's rights and empowerment, but were quick to tear down any woman who did not fit their liberal narrative. She pointed out the irony of The View's feminist stance, which seemed to only apply to women who held liberal views. Karoline framed this as a form of fake feminism that only empowers women who think and behave in the way that fits within the show's political agenda.